A blockbuster deal to battle climate change comes down to the wire.
It's like a shot clock at the end of a basketball game.
The reason Senator Hickenlooper says it was too important to let die.
There's a lot of talk and political spin about if we're in a recession or not, what to be actually looking at to get this answer, and how to be in the best position financially if it does happen. And climate change has started playing a significant role in whether your flight takes off on time or not. How airlines are changing how they operate to address this.
And it almost looks like Christmas in July as hail blankets Estes Park. It's a weather action day here on the Front Range. On the plus side, it's not pushing 100 degrees today, but the rain is creating a few problems on its own. Here's a live look at the radar, and you can see the storms that are moving across the state. It's going to be a cool evening for many of us. Meteorologist Stacey Donaldson is in our weather center with a look at what's going on right now. Hi, Stacey.
Hey there. We're just getting started. Temperatures, though, did drop from the 90s down into the 70s for this afternoon. That's where we're sitting at this point, 78 degrees in Denver. We have 70s up toward Fort Collins and Greeley as well. Up in the mountains, also 60s and 70s. So that cold front really changed things for us, but it also ushered in a lot of moisture. So we have flash flood watches in effect through about 10 o'clock tonight, and the rain has already started off to our west. But one change has been a flood watch that's been added all the way from Fort Collins to Longmont to Boulder down into the west metro area here for Denver. We also have some flood warnings that have flash flood warnings that are in effect here just west of Grand Lake near Granby and north of Estes Park. So we're keeping an eye on those areas. Also here for Denver, we haven't seen any rain yet. Most of that rain is just off to the west into the foothills and the high country and down to our southwest towards Salida as well. A lot of lightning with these storms and heavy rainfall coming through with them, which is why we have so many flash flood and flood watches in effect through tonight. So our hourly planner starts these storms up a little earlier than what we had the last couple of nights. Then we here in Denver will have cloudy skies from 9 o'clock all the way through midnight with temperatures in the 60s and 70s and those scattered thunderstorms here for our area with lows in the upper 50s. So the cool air sticks around tomorrow, but also the chance for flash flooding does as well. We'll talk more about that and how it will affect your plans tomorrow and perhaps over the weekend coming up.
Thank you, Stacey. And a reminder, the Denver 7 app on your phone or tablet has an interactive radar, so you can really get a good look at what's going on in your neighborhood. And you can always find a 24-hour weather stream on the Denver 7 Plus app on your favorite streaming device. And did you see this yet? This is hail, piles and piles of it in the middle of Estes Park. A stretch of Elkhorn Avenue looked like a winter wonderland from late last night until the hail melted away after the sun came out today. As people in the Estes Park area know all too well, Colorado's fire threat is never far away. Today, Colorado Congressman Joe Neguse and 6 other representatives met to discuss the Wildfire Response and Drought Resiliency Act.
Geared towards doing what we can to help local communities and state governments respond to wildfires. Again, as we know, these wildfires are only going to become more pervasive in the years ahead. We no longer have wildfire seasons. We have wildfire years. We've got to fund more suppression activities, give our state governments and our local governments more ability to have aerial support and a wide variety of other tools at their disposal to deal with these wildfires.
And Colorado Senator John Hickenlooper is getting credit from climate activists for keeping open lines of communication that helped forge a $369 billion climate and tax package overnight. The deal was all but dead after Democratic Senator Joe Manchin said climate concerns would keep him from supporting a climate bill.
There were a couple of us that just said, no, this is too important, too big a deal to give up. And so we're just going to keep plugging away and keep trying to listen to every concern that Senator Manchin had and really try to address them directly and honestly. And, you just throw yourself and you just can't quit no matter what.
He didn't give up. Senator Hickenlooper tells us the deal is the single largest jolt to climate rescue in the history of the world. The bill includes incentives for people who buy new or used electric vehicles, $30 billion in incentives for companies to invest in alternative energy, and another $60 billion to address the disproportionate burden of pollution on low-income communities and communities of color.
New numbers out today show the economy shrank for the second straight quarter. This fits the definition of a recession. But the National Bureau of Economic Research, or NBER, hasn't declared one. That's a nonprofit made up of 8 economists who set benchmarks.
One of the reasons that I think it's a big question whether a recession's actually begun is involving the job market. Unemployment at last report was at 3.6% in this country, and that is just a notch above the historic low of 3.5%.
Compare that to the last 2 recessions, which saw unemployment rates at 10% and 14.7%. Experts at Bankrate say inflation is technically causing the same effect right now that high unemployment does.
High unemployment separates people from the ability to buy the things they want and need. What has inflation done? That has kept people from buying the things they want and need.
But there's still more to consider for NBER to declare a recession, like how much money people are making. The second quarter numbers that came out today are also likely to be readjusted.
It needs to see the broader picture. It needs to see essentially as many data points as they can across this complicated and large U.S. economy.
And with all this information, you may be feeling like the definition of a recession is also complicated. Experts say the best thing to do right now is focus on paying off any credit card debt you may have and save what you can for emergencies. That way you're in a better position if unemployment rates spike. Now, we've all been feeling the price increases at the grocery store, and we're getting a new picture today of just how much they've been going up. Nestle says it raised prices nearly 10% in North America for the first half of the year, and the company says rising costs on things like packaging and freight are to blame for that. Unilever said this week that it's bumped up its prices by the same amount on average. U.S. Bank is facing a big fine for illegally accessing customers' credit reports and then opening accounts and credit cards without their permission. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is saying today it is fining the bank more than $37 million. The agency's investigation found the bank was aware that sales pressure was leading employees to open those accounts. Now, along with the fine, the bank will be required to develop a plan to return all unlawfully charged fees and costs plus interest to the impacted customers. Meantime, the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is questioning how well fines like this actually work. He says in an interview with the Associated Press that some companies have gotten so big that the money makes little difference. He says the agency plans to add new tools that could limit a bank or financial firm's ability to do business if they violate the law. Schools say they saw a lot more fights and other aggressive behavior this past school year. The changes they're making to try to prevent this as the new school year begins.
And going back to school is tough enough for kids. Imagine having to do it without the proper supplies. How you can help send kids back to the classroom with the supplies they need this fall.